talking about metamorphosis. So we've talked about that little root morph before. We've seen that in the rock cycle. We explained that morph is to change. So metamorphosis, this is when insects change, okay? It's a series of changes, and there's two different categories. You have complete metamorphosis and incomplete metamorphosis. Now, only insects go through these changes. And again, there's two categories. Insects are either complete or they are incomplete. They're one or the other, okay? And we're going to talk a little bit about how each is significant, okay? And then tomorrow, or on Wednesday, you're going to kind of do a Kahoot, which is going to help you differentiate what these insects are, okay? So complete metamorphosis. So in your notes, I'd put this down. This is also attached, so you can print it out and paste it into your notebook. So let's go through these. So, sorry guys. Okay, so complete metamorphosis. I like to think about a dollar bill, right? In order to have a full dollar, how many quarters do you need? You need 4 quarters. So when I think of complete metamorphosis, I want that full dollar. I'm going to need my 4 quarters, so this is where you're going to have 4 stages. Incomplete metamorphosis, this is like an incomplete dollar. We do not have 4 stages, okay? So incomplete actually only has 3. So we have complete, which is 4 stages, and then incomplete, which is 3 stages, all right? On the next line, it tells us what those stages are, okay? So the first stage, incomplete, is an egg. This is the same for incomplete. Each of them always start with an egg, so all insects start as an egg, okay? So we have an egg, and it's laid by a female, and it's enclosed in a shell, all right? And then for incomplete, it's the same thing as complete. Just an egg is an egg. They're the same thing. So complete and incomplete are similar because they both start as an egg. They are different in their next stages, so pay close attention here. Complete metamorphosis has a larva. I'm familiar with that word, larva. Think of some insects that you know that are larvae. What comes to mind for me is a caterpillar, right? A caterpillar is like a larva, and when I think of a caterpillar, he kind of looks like this, right? If I prop him up like this, he looks like an L. So my caterpillar is going to resemble the letter L. That's why I've made it green. L for larva. It is a worm-like guy, okay? So L, that L looks like a worm. That's your trick to remember what a larva is, okay? So first you get your egg, then you get your larva, your worm-like guy. And then after you get your larva, think about a caterpillar. What happens to a caterpillar? A lot of you are going to tell me that he goes into a cocoon, and you're exactly right. Last year, Brantley was 2 years old, and he learned all of these words in his preschool class. So I know that we're capable of learning this too, okay? So we have an egg, then we've got our worm-like guy, a larva, and then that larva, he forms what's called a pupa. A pupa, and a pupa is a cocoon. The way that I remember what a pupa is the letter P kind of has this circle, right? And it kind of looks like a cocoon. It kind of looks like my little worm guy can fit in there, okay? So we start with an egg. Then we've got our worm. A worm looks like the letter L. And then after our caterpillar, we get a cocoon, right? Letter P for pupa. Pupa is a big 4th grade word for cocoon, okay? And then lastly, that guy emerges into a beautiful butterfly. This is called an adult. They are grown. They are full grown. When we grow all the way up, we're called an adult. Just like these insects, they are also called adults. And that is similar to incomplete. Incomplete also ends in an adult. But we said that incomplete is different because incomplete has 3 stages. So we know the 2 end stages are the same. It's an egg and an adult. I wonder what that middle stage is. So let's look at our notes and let's find out. So incomplete has 3 stages. We have an egg, then we have a nymph. The word is called a nymph. And I remember a nymph for N, like a newborn. So what you have is you have an egg, and then it kind of is like a little baby, right? So think about like a newborn baby. You can tell it's a human, and you can tell that it's got a head and an arms and feet and a belly button, right? It looks just like an adult, except it looks really tiny. And that's exactly what incomplete metamorphosis is. You have your egg, And then you have this insect, and it looks just like the adult, but it's a tiny version, okay? So hopefully those tricks are going to help you today, all right? So our nymph is hatched into a small adult, and then it molts and grows many times. If you don't know the word molt, I like to think about a snake. I'm sure most of us are familiar with snakes, how they grow and then they shed their skin. The way that I talk to Brantley about this when we've seen snake skin on walks is that it's just like when we grow and we need to go buy more clothes, right? So sometimes his shirt gets a little too short, right? It starts to show his belly, or it kind of hugs his arms a little too tight, or especially when we go to take off his shirt to put his jammies on, it gets stuck on his head, right? Because his head is grown. So that's kind of like this. We have to get rid of those clothes and we have to go buy new clothes, bigger clothes. That's what's happening here with these nymphs, okay? So as these nymphs are growing, their outer shell, think about when you've stepped on an insect, you hear that crunch, right? Because they have an exoskeleton, they have that outside structure that's crunchy, right? That protects their insides. So what happens is that gets too small and they need to molt. They need to shed it off so that they can grow something new that fits their body better. So they do this many times, all right? Okay, and then an adult will have wings. An example of incomplete is a dragonfly. An example of complete is a butterfly, okay? So I'm just gonna recap us quickly. So we have complete metamorphosis. Complete metamorphosis has 4 stages, okay? We have our egg, we're thinking of a butterfly. After an egg, we get a caterpillar, which is larva. After larva, we go ahead and we get our cocoon, which is called a pupa. After our pupa, they are an adult, right? They're that beautiful butterfly. Now notice they changed the way that they looked. Each stage looks very, very different. For incomplete metamorphosis, we have an incomplete dollar. We only have 3 stages. We still have our egg, but we have our nymph, that newborn baby. It's gonna look just like the adult, but smaller. They can molt and grow as many times as they need to and want to, and then they form the adult, okay? All right, hope that helped clarify.